Hey dudes, Hardcore Kid here. Well, 2013 has come and gone. In the past year, we've had a few surprises, made some friends, and sadly had to deal with deaths of a few famous people. But overall, I think the Big 13 was a lucky year for a lot of people. As for me, 2013 was my 4th year as the Hardcore Kid, and I believe it's been my best year to date. I've made 17 reviews of movies and TV shows, some good and some bad. So, just like last year when I reviewed the best and worst movies I reviewed to date, I'm going to be covering the top 5 best and top 5 worst movies I've reviewed in 2013. And since it's good to start things positive, let's start by looking at the top 5 best movies I reviewed in 2013. Number 5. The Halloween Tree. One of the more obscure, but no doubt fascinating Hanna-Barbera movies based on the book of the same name by the late Ray Bradbury. This is a movie about some mysterious magician, voiced by Leonard Nimoy, who leads a group of trick-or-treaters on an adventure through different time periods to save the soul of their fallen friend Pip. I like this movie for its dark atmosphere, spooky animation, and the way it teaches kids how other cultures celebrated Halloween and other haunting festivities. It also does a good job developing the characters, showcasing each of their personalities and their relationships with Pip. Oftentimes, it's heartwarming, but also depressing. But regardless, this is a movie that I certainly recommend giving a watch during the Halloween season. It'll either make you go boo boo boo, or woo woo woo.
Woo woo woo, you know it!
Number 4, School of Rock. To start things off, I'm not entirely happy with my review, mainly due to technical problems with my screen capture device, which cut out the footage in some shots, but I still had a good time watching this movie and putting the review together. I know a lot of people who don't like this movie because they just can't stand Jack Black's antics, but I enjoy it because it pays tribute to all their old rock and roll and heavy metal bands, and shows all the faults of the music industry today. The soundtrack is awesome, with songs from bands like Black Sabbath, Ramones, The Who, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, and Jack Black, still being his wacky self you see in every movie, does actually deliver one of his better performances here, especially since him being a big rock and roll guy himself, he actually feels passionate about keeping the spirit of rock and roll going. Also, unless she actually does get a good booking agent in the future, suffice to say, this is probably the only time I'll ever stand to see Miranda Cosgrove in a movie. Nuff said.
This is real. This is not fake.
It's not a forgery.
No forgery.
Number 3. Teen Titans Trouble in Tokyo. For my 4-year anniversary, I asked my fans to vote on what I should review. The choices were Trouble in Tokyo, Cool World, Akira, and School of Rock. It was close, but Trouble in Tokyo just edged out the others, and that's good because, you know what guys, I had an absolute blast making this review. Probably because the movie itself is also a blast to watch. You see, I grew up watching the Teen Titans, and I really got into the show, and was pretty sad when the show had that cliffhanger ending. Now, Trouble in Tokyo is like an early Christmas present for the fans. It brings back the main 5, puts them in this colorful neon wonderland of Tokyo, and has them face off against these bizarre ink monsters wearing these pink suits and baby blue sky suits, and just makes you wonder, what the heck is wrong with these guys? Who picked out their outfits? It also features the scene where Robin and Starfire finally confess their love. So, that's pretty cool for all the Robin Starfire fans. Beast Boy and Raven fans? Not so much. I know people may look down on this movie, saying that it's just a filler movie and not in canon with the main series, but so what? It's still a funny, exciting, action-packed 70 minutes worth your time. As for my review, well, I believe it was Mike Nelson who said that if you can have fun watching a movie regardless of how good or bad it is, you can also have fun mocking it. I mean, how else do their riffs on Space Mutiny and the Twilight movies become such a big hit? This was probably the most fun I ever had putting a review together since my Feladay crossover with Huey Toonmore. I had all kinds of jokes rolling in. I even got fellow Robot Wars Roboteers John Finley and Anthony Pritchard to do voice acting, which is pretty awesome. Well, for me as a Robot Wars fan, I don't know about you guys. Plus, I managed to get a few stabs in on the new Teen Titans Go series, which, back then when I said I was mixed on going into the review, I've pretty much given up on it by now, since the show has just gotten way too stupid. I mean, Raven being force-fed a bad meatball, and all the Titans laughing at Robin on his deathbed? Fuck this company. In fact, the only parts I actually do like in the show are all of the Beast Boy Raven moments, but even that's not enough to save it. But suffice to say, I had fun watching the movie, I had fun making the review, and I hope all you guys had fun watching it. Oh, and Zone-sama can sit on an octopus. Number 2. Rock and roll. The whole gimmick behind my show is that I'm a rock and roll junkie who reviews animated films. If there was a movie that fits both criteria for this show, rock and roll is that movie. I really like the post-World War III setting, the likable cast of wacky characters, and then of course, there's the music. Guys, this is a soundtrack that features Cheap Trick, Blondie, and Lou Reed. I don't care if somebody makes a cheap bootleg soundtrack right from the movie, I'd be rocking that shit out on my stereo. A little fun fact, Debbie Harry's Send Love Through was actually remixed into another song called Maybe For Sure on her Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde album. I listened to it and it's okay, but I prefer Angel's Song more. Just seems to have a bit more substance to it. It's also a real shame that later on this year, Lou Reed opened up a portal leading to Heaven's Pearly Gates and just went right through it. Oh well. Hey, I'm sure he's taking a walk on the wild side up there with God herself. Rest in peace, Lou. You were mock, and thanks a lot. But if there's one other post-World War III film that can top this, it's the #1 best movie I've reviewed this year, and that movie is Akira. Yes, I believe it was obvious. There was absolutely nothing that could compare to the explosive awesomeness of Katsuhiro Otomo's masterpiece. This movie has everything. Motorcycle fight scenes, huge explosions, blood and gore, and who the hell could forget the epic gore fest in the final climax? To quote Revy, fucking A, man. Now, this was another movie that I added to the poll for what I should review for my 4-year anniversary, and out of 76 votes, it only got 11. That's really depressing. But I am happy that the movie has been getting some recognition as of late. Case in point, just recently, Toonami aired Akira as part of their movie month. So, not only does Toonami awaken itself, but it airs one of the greatest animated films ever, Psychotronic! Also, when I went to MagFest last weekend, I checked out the Art of Akira exhibit where they showcased a bunch of artwork, models, and animation cells from the movie. I even picked up a couple posters of Kaneda and Tetsuo while I was there. I swear, that Tetsuo picture is scary as fuck. Now, last thing I just want to cover before I finish this video is that, in my review, I mentioned how they could have added a bit more from the manga to the film, like the gang war between the capsules and the clowns, or perhaps give characters like Joker, Lady Miyako, and even the title character more development. But now that I look back on it, it's 1988. They only had $11 million to work with, so there was no way they could have afforded enough money to cover everything from the manga. And besides, the anime and the manga are just like movie adaptations to books. They take place in two different but similar universes. They can't always be 100% identical to each other. While the manga has Akira awaken in the second book, the entire movie is a build-up to Akira being unleashed. Again, while I do prefer the manga, the movie is definitely worth checking out. Hell, put it on the list of movies you should watch before you die. It is that awesome. Well guys, that was my top 5 best movies I've reviewed this past year. Stay tuned next time where I take a look at the top 5 worst movies I've reviewed.
I feel like a monster. My secret side I keep hid under lock and key.